Reasons I would be okay with a TikTok ban under a couple of conditions. There's two arguments that actually hold water. One of them is that China could have access to a massive trove of Americans' data, and a second argument is that with a massive trove of data, China could express influence over the American population in a subtle, historically unprecedented way, except it's not historically unprecedented. We have seen this already in 2016 via Facebook, via Cambridge Analytica. There's been so much happening that I would forgive you for having completely forgotten about the Mueller report. If you've completely forgotten what it is, this is the document that details the evidence that Russia interfered in the 2016 election, and they didn't just do it out of their own free will, they did it in cahoots or colluding with the Trump organization. And maybe you remember that line, the no collusion. That oversimplifies drastically what historically actually happened. Not only were 13 Russian nationals and 3 Russian companies indicted, but also Roger Stone pleaded guilty to lying to Congress about his efforts to seek information from WikiLeaks. Cohen pleaded guilty to lying to Congress about Moscow calls that he had with a top Putin aide. Flynn admitted to lying to the FBI about his contact with the Russian ambassador during the presidential transition. So on the one hand, when Congress says we need to be worried that a foreign adversary could express influence in an election, I hear, yeah, that is actually a real thing because it already has happened. But banning TikTok is like trying to do brain surgery with a sword. It's too blunt a tool. Banning an entire app does nothing to address the thousands of other vectors by which foreign influence is seeping into American consciousness. Let me show you a map. This is a map of how 6 subreddits made disinformation stories appear, it's hard to see, on CNN. Ridiculous disinformation starting in subreddits, being sent by bots to Twitter and 4chan, being circulated through the internet until it becomes a big enough story propped up by bots that it becomes real news, reported about in the real news. This is an academic paper and I like to cite my sources, so you can look it up here. So while I do believe that foreign governments are currently actively expressing influence over American citizens, and that this is a fact that we don't talk about enough, trying to stop that process by slicing off an entire portion of the internet is just too coarse a tool, especially considering that the former president pardoned Roger Stone and Paul Manafort and Charles Kushner. He's pardoning all the people, so they're not actually facing real consequences. And maybe you remember how Biden quoted Trump in the State of the Union speech that Trump said to Putin, do whatever you want, re-invading other countries. This is in part a plea, a bid, a hey, go ahead and do your thing again, because you'll scratch my back, I'll scratch your back, and you make an international disinformation campaign that helps sway the election. Let's look at a couple examples and then we'll wrap this up. 3 of the topics that Russian troll farms were addressing in their posts: race, gun control, and sexual identity. The strategy involved is amplifying tense debates within the country. Political division and political chaos are useful to Russia. And Trump getting elected would be useful to Russia. So, Congress ready to ban TikTok? This is my condition. If you're going to start taking stances on foreign adversaries expressing influence on the American population, what are you going to do about your damn selves that are doing it right now? Sorry, getting a little riled up. What I just did is called an appeals to hypocrisy fallacy. The fact that Russia is interfering doesn't prove that we shouldn't stop China from interfering. One doesn't follow from the other. That's my conflict of interest showing because I'm on TikTok and I make money on this platform. Conclusion. I understand why people are concerned about TikTok. It makes sense to be scared of foreign influence because it has literally already happened to us. We should not be naive about this. Historians will look back at this period of history as an extension of the Cold War, not out of fear that A-bombs would be dropped, but I-bombs, information infiltration on the international stage. Historically, how we made our way out of the Cold War is with mutually assured destruction. Each side just arms itself with enough firepower that it can promise to destroy the other side if it even attacks. That strategy cannot work in an information war. You can deter an A-bomb with the promise of retaliation, but you can only cure disinformation through education. The information wars are here, And the frontier is the difference between truth and lies. You do not win that battle with weapons. You win it by educating your population. If you really want to address this problem in a sustainable, long-term way that's not playing whack-a-mole with Reddit bots and with TikTok bots and with Twitter bots, educate the population. Triple the education budget. Call it part of national defense. Call it military spending. It's probably realistically the only solution that will work in the long term.